Hi, my name is Andrew Derkacz, and I am a freshman at Conestoga High School. I was baptized at Trinity Church in Center City, Philadelphia. I went from being a member there to St. Luke's, so I've been brought up going to church my whole life. Isaiah 40:29-30 says, "He gives strength to the weary and increases the power of the weak. Even youths grow tired and weary, and young men stumble and fall. But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength." This is my favorite Bible verse because it shows that those who have faith in the Lord will be helped by God when they're in a low place. This is saying that if you put your trust in God in the bad times, He will help you through the bad times. I'm hoping that God will help me through the bad times for my grandma passing away. A time that faith helped me was when my grandma passed away, and she was an inspiration to me because she was always praying and talking about faith. Before every time we ate food, she would pray. We have no doubt she's in heaven because she had such a strong faith in our Lord Jesus. I hope that my faith continues to grow as much as my grandma and see her in heaven one day. I try to live out my faith by praying before every meal and remembering what my grandma has taught me.
Hi, my name is David Derkacz, and I'm a freshman at Conestoga High School. I was baptized at a church in Center City, Philadelphia, where I was born. I moved here when I was only 3 years old, so I was a member of St. Luke for as long as I can remember. My favorite hobby during the summer is wakeboarding, which is like snowboarding on water. You are standing on a board, being towed behind a boat, riding its wake. I think of this hobby the same way as I do with my faith journey. As you are riding behind the boat and gliding on the water, you feel like nothing can stop you. Then you catch an edge and fall. You sit in the water feeling alone, and then out of nowhere, the boat slowly comes around and you are up riding the wake again. In my life, when I feel like nothing can stop me, something always does. Then I'm feeling alone, so I reach out for God, sending prayers, and I slowly start to feel up again, like I'm riding the wake. Some days when I wakeboard, the water gets really rough and choppy, making it very difficult to stay up. But other days the water is smooth and super easy to stay up. That is just like my life. Some days are good and others are bad, but I still try my best to stay up. When I first started wakeboarding, I had my family to teach me how to ride. I think of them the same as this church, guiding me to reach God and the ways of life as a Christian. St. Luke has taught me that religion is so much more than Jesus himself. Religion is a place you can turn to when you feel lost and alone. I've recently read this Bible verse that seemed to connect to me. Mark 10:27. Jesus looked at them and said, "With man it is impossible, but with God, for all things are possible with God." This verse shows that when you reach out to God, sending prayers, He can help. He can do anything, as everything is possible with Him. This verse connects to me because I've had times where God has helped me, showing me that there is always a way.
Hello, I'm Godfrey, and this is my faith statement. Over my many years at St. Luke, I have changed drastically. Since I was in the second grade Sunday school class, I've seen freshmen give their faith statements, and I've waited for the day that I would get to do mine. Now that I'm here, I'm really just starting to notice how much my perception on church, God, and life have all changed. To be honest, I never appreciated or cared for church much when I was younger. I always looked at it as having to get up before noon on the weekends. I always believed in God, and my parents and Sunday school teachers taught me about His story, and how He created the sky, the water, the animals, and us. But I never really understood what God meant to me until recently. 2021 wasn't the best year for everyone, it seems. I'd say for me, however, this year has enlightened me on what God means to me and why church is so special. Earlier this year, I got a very bad concussion, and just like that, my whole life changed. I was always active, played sports, hung out with friends, and was always wanting to discover something new to do. However, when I got this concussion, I saw myself being in bed constantly, missing school, not seeing my friends, and getting constant headaches. I went to see a doctor in Pittsburgh who told me no matter how bad my symptoms got, I had to fight through them and try to get back to my daily activities. So I took his advice. I was starting to get back to normal again, I was in school, seeing my friends, and being active, and it was working. Then about 2 weeks in, the pandemic hit, and I was forced to be inside, and I thought these symptoms would never go away. One day during quarantine, I decided to pray to God directly and ask Him to help me. One day, I woke up and I decided I was tired of the constant headaches and was ready to get this concussion over with. In that moment, it hit me. God was answering my prayer. It reminded me of the Bible story, Noah's Ark, where God reaches out to Noah and tells him to build an ark to save him and every animal on earth. While God didn't actually talk to me, I feel like He was there to guide me along my journey. Since then, I've been completely cleared from my concussion. And ever since that moment, I've realized what God means to me. He isn't a map to lead you in life to what you seek, but more like a compass to tell you in which direction you should be heading. Now that I know what God means to me, I understand why we gather for church, and why people of all ages, races, and languages unite early on Sundays to celebrate and worship God. Because while we all might not think of Him in the same way, we all are there because we believe in Him. The belief that there is someone bigger than ourselves to guide us through life, as difficult as it may get. And while I'm speaking here today about my faith journey, I hope someone who is listening to this, who was once in my shoes, will take what I said and try to understand what God is to them. Thank you for listening.
My faith in God has always been with me. I know He's with me, and I pray to Him every day. But one night, my faith was challenged. I started high school this year. I made the JV soccer team and was very excited. I was playing very well at the start of the season. On October 20th, I had my first away high school game. The game was almost over, and I was driving towards the goal when two defenders collided with me. We all went down, but I did not get up and was in extreme pain. The ambulance was called, and I was taken to the emergency room to have my bent wrist evaluated. The x-ray showed that I had broken both bones in my wrist and would require them to be set in a cast. 2 weeks later, I required surgery. One thing I wasn't looking forward to was the long journey to full recovery. I think my faith played a huge part in getting me through. I always thought to myself that God let this happen for a reason, and that it was only a minor setback in my long life ahead. I found myself praying every day, asking God when I'm going to be okay, and can I have a quick recovery? And He listens. There were signs throughout those few months that showed that. Sure enough, I got my cast off 2 weeks early, which I was very happy about. The Lord helped me heal. My faith will always be a part of me. I always know He's there for me whenever I need to talk, but I don't think I appreciated the need to have faith as much as I did after I broke my wrist. This whole experience really challenged me to place my trust in God, knowing that He will always be there.
My faith journey began when I was about 4.5. My parents asked me if I wanted to do karate. At the time I was hesitant, but it sounded fun, so I said yes. So they took me to my first class, and after a while I started to love it, and it became my daily routine. It's been 11 years since I started karate, and it has been a roller coaster for me. Throughout, I would tell myself, when I get to the next belt, I'm gonna quit because it will be too hard for me, and I really don't want to work that hard. At these times when I doubted my ability and commitment, God was there right with me, and saying that only seemed to boost my morale of staying a little while longer. I look back, and throughout all of the mountains that I had to climb in the last 15 years, God was there right with me, although through much of the earlier years I hadn't realized it. One summer when I was 13, my parents asked me if I wanted to go to Black Rock, a Christian summer camp near Quarryville. I was a little hesitant, just like the karate situation, but I said yes, and it was an amazing experience. I got to meet new people and participate in fun outdoor activities. At Black Rock, for the first time, I felt like my relationship with God was easy and organic. I felt God surrounding us on the beautiful property, and His presence surrounded us all week. It wasn't just my relationship with God, though. It was also the relationships I formed with the amazing counselors and campers. I will never forget about one of my counselors, and his name was Nate. He came all the way from Wisconsin, and at one service, he spoke about his amazing family and friends, but also about his brother who committed suicide. He told us how that experience has helped his faith journey just as much as it had made him doubt his faith of God. He started turning to God right after his brother passed, and told us he started seeing positive results from a bad experience. Just as he was getting ready for a Sunday morning service, he told us that he had horrible news that one of his church members had passed from a heart attack earlier that morning. We all circled around and prayed for him. It was one of the most emotional moments I've experienced in my life. To me, this was a message of God, of how powerful prayer can be from me to you and another to you. And also that we need to have God in our lives, but we also need each other. Each one of these experiences are all part of my faith journey. Through each one of these things, I've grown closer to God. They made me realize God's grace is not only in my life, but also when I suffer and struggle. God's grace is also shown by people like Nate, who have suffered through the hardest of things and have been able to speak to God and find the right path. At some point in my life, I too will face difficult situations, and I'm glad to know God will be by my side. I just wanted to thank all of the people who made it possible for me to stand up here today and speak. I couldn't have done it without my family and their never-ending love and support for me. And also to the amazing mentors that I have the privilege of following. Without all of you, I would not be who I am today.
It's been a strange year. The kind of year that brings the best and worst in people. The kind of year that makes us question our past and worry about our present and future. We've seen our world tremble under the weight of a global pandemic, and I think we've all experienced loss in some way during this time. We've seen our economy falter, our schools struggle, and our nation polarize in the midst of racially charged violence and a traumatic election. I've witnessed the Broncos fail, yet again, to give their fans any hope about their prospects for another Super Bowl. Yes, this is the kind of year that either solidifies your faith or destroys it. Throughout this time, I've been stressed and I felt afraid. Sometimes the world seems like such a dark place, but in these dark times, I've seen glimmers of light as well. Signs of God's presence in our world. When the pandemic struck, for instance, many people in my neighborhood rallied to raise funds to support frontline workers. My own family organized a food drive for the local food pantry and collected enough food and supplies to fill half of our garage. This made me realize that while it's so easy to despair in the times of turmoil, the generosity of the human spirit still manages to shine through, and it gives me hope. I've seen my teachers try hard to rise above the challenge of trying to teach both remotely and in person, and managed to make this year meaningful and memorable. I've seen my friends and family work hard to maintain relationships, even when we couldn't meet face to face. I've seen members of our church meet faithfully every Sunday, offering up their prayers and being there for each other every week. I've seen people try to better understand the struggles of Black Americans and to try to help. And like many others, I've experienced my hope surge as more and more people in this country get vaccinated against COVID-19. What bigger sign of God's presence in the world could there be than this miracle? Reflecting on all I've seen and experienced this year, I think one lesson stands out more than any other. How important it is to have faith and to spread God's word. To be the light in these dark times. To choose to see the good. To be a good example even when the times seem dark and bleak. Because it's so easy to succumb in despair or give up. But people long for hope. Sometimes all you have to do is extend your hand and others will reach for it. This is what faith is all about, and I hope to explore in the next few years ways I can be that light in God.
The first time I attended church at St. Luke was when I was in second grade. On that day, my family and I realized how welcoming the people of St. Luke are. When after the children's sermon, I cartwheeled down the aisle and back to my family exclaiming, "I think we found our church." And instead of getting looks of scorn, my parents saw the smiles of the faces from the pews. I don't recall what the children's sermon was about, but I do recall a feeling of happiness and belonging. Belonging is an important part of our emotional well-being. Throughout the past year across the globe, our sense of belonging was challenged due to the social distancing forced on all of us because of the COVID-19 pandemic. When I think about this global view, it makes me think about all the different worldviews and attributes people have around the world. There are 1,161,000,000 Hindus. There are 1,907,000,000 Muslims. There are 506 million Buddhists, and there are 14.7 million Jewish people. Some people say that they are spiritual rather than religious, or not religious at all. It's a lot of people practicing a religion different to our own, never mind the differing set of beliefs held by each individual in every religion. During my faith journey, I came to realize that I do not hold all the answers to everything, obviously. Since there is no way to tell what belief is absolutely true, hence the term belief, we can only figure out our own truth by thinking to ourselves and talking to others. This way we can create our own perspective and gain insight into new perspectives so we can find our own truth. When going about this, I learned that we should not be intolerant of others, the idea that I am right and you are wrong, because this can cause tension, it creates hate groups, it starts wars, and it gets us nowhere. We should also not be tolerant of others, the idea that I am right, but I will tolerate your belief, because we should not practice this because it does not promote belonging and does not promote diversity and inclusion. It also creates some tension, and you still aren't getting anywhere. Instead, what you should do is value others and value their culture and identity. It's the idea that I have a viewpoint, but so do you, and I'm genuinely interested in yours. This creates feelings of belonging or inclusion across groups, and it helps you on your journey of finding your truth. I personally will try to keep an open mind to others' thoughts in my journey ahead. Here at St. Luke, we celebrate diversity and inclusion in our statement, all are welcome, no exceptions. It is my hope that we can all celebrate our differences and treat each other well in life, regardless of what happens after death. No exceptions.
For my faith statement, I decided to write about the inclusion aspect I love about the Lutheran faith in our church community. During this time when there seems to be so much uncertainty in equal rights based on sex, race, religion, and who you choose to love, it is comforting to know that no matter what you're going through, you are always welcome at God's table. The Lutheran religion was based on the idea that the Catholic Church was not paying enough attention to the poor and suffering. Martin Luther made this religion because he saw injustices that were happening in the Catholic Church. The fact that this whole religion is based on the idea of inclusion, no matter of your social status, is truly amazing and something I believe in. I know there are other religions where if I were to go to their services in church, I would not be allowed to take communion because I do not believe in exactly what they believe in. That is not the case with our church, St. Luke. Pastor Matt and Pastor Sue begin every communion service with, "Everyone is welcome at God's table, no exceptions." I love hearing that and knowing that all of my friends are always welcome here. I'm still learning about the Lutheran religion, my personal faith, and what I believe in. One thing I do strongly believe in is that everyone should be treated fairly, respectfully, and equally, and I believe this religion does that for everyone. As I go through this journey and discover my own faith, I know I'll always be welcome in this community, and that is very reassuring. Another part of the inclusion aspect I love about our church is the fact that we have an amazing, strong female pastor, who I know will support me throughout my life. I appreciate having a strong female role model in my life to look up to. Having a female pastor is another example of how St. Luke represents inclusion and equality. During these times when people need to fight and stand up to feel included, I know that in my church, all are welcome, no exceptions.